welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. All right, here we are, another episode. Always love that when you listeners listen in and go from episode to episode and see what do I say right out of the gate here. But today we're actually speaking with a licensed urological surgeon with over 20 years of experience, best-selling author, podcast host, and she's an extremely driven real estate syndicator who has successfully raised funds for several social impact real estate investments. Founder of Money with Mission, Felecia Froe, MD. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Brent. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How about that introduction, all these years and all that to work into that? How does that feel?
Actually, I just did the math because I don't do the math very often. It's actually 30 years now, and I cannot believe I've been a urologist for 30 years because I started when I was 10, right? So,
awesome. That's an early start, but that's a remarkable list of items there, and it's fun to see those things all blend together, and really when you get to the point of, I guess, when you have the ability to stop selling and start helping, there's these different things that kind of fall in place, and being able to share your unique set of experiences with everybody else, right?
Yeah, it's actually, that's very interesting that you said stop selling and start helping. And I didn't ever think of medicine and being in a room with a patient as selling. And It actually is, because you are convincing them that what you are offering them or telling them is the best thing to do is good for their health. Yep. And when I started doing real estate investing, the whole selling part was disgusting to me, to be perfectly honest, until I put it in those terms. I'm not giving you something that's not good for you or that I don't think will help you. This is exactly the same thing I do in a room with a patient. I think this is the thing that you need to make you feel better or live longer or whatever. You can take it or not. And that's the same way we are when we're doing real estate deals. Yeah.
So I've actually been able to train a lot of people. And the very first thing is we talk about the ethics of it, because I'm going to show you ninja tips to persuade, right? But there's a difference in how you're persuading to help or persuading to hurt. And it's all about the person using these techniques, especially in sales, in persuasion, negotiation, all of these things. But it's all about the person doing it. And Felecia, what's really interesting in the world of sales is what I've always told everybody is, like, as a physician, when you come into that room, you demand authority. Like, you have the training, the experience, and this may have been the first time you see this patient, but instantly, as soon as you walk through that door, you have authority with that patient. So in the world of sales, it's like, how can we connect with people and be able to have that authority? But at the same time, it's all about the person. You've got to have that. You got to have integrity. That's all there is to it.
100% integrity, and make a connection with that person. Even as a physician, yes, you came to me for a problem, but you're more likely to listen and trust me if we have something in common. You realize I am another person with 2 legs, 2 arms, the life that I have. Maybe we both like to fish. Maybe we both like, have kids, maybe anything. We can have that conversation and then get into the thing. So building the relationship as fast as you can. I mean, and it's genuine. It's not building it just so I can sell you something. It is, right. For me, I am truly interested in you and how I can help you. And if my thing can help you, let's play. If I can't, let me get you to somebody who can. That's how I look at things.
Awesome. So building the genuine relationship, and that's that rapport with commonality. And the other interesting part of this too is, like, if you don't just say things to have commonality with somebody, because that's where you lose the genuine piece. Oh, you like dogs? I like dogs too. Oh yeah, do you have a dog? No, I've never had a dog, but I like them because you like them, right? Very interesting. Well, we jumped right off into some sales talk here. But just kind of like stepping back a little bit, I always love like a brief summary of how, so you're a urological surgeon now. How did your journey into medicine start and lead you to where you're at now?
So when I started, well, I'm going to start in the middle. When I started into medical school, becoming a urologist was not even on the radar. So I don't even know if I knew what a urologist was when I started medical school.
Right.
Going back, it wasn't medicine. I've listened to some other folks and know some docs who like, I've always wanted to be a doctor. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian. So I do like dogs. And my dad is a veterinarian, retired now. And I went and told him, I said, Dad, I want to be a veterinarian. And he said to me, if you're going to school for that long, you should go to medical school. So consider that for about 30 seconds because your dad tells you what you're supposed to do, right? I was at that age of dad tells you what to do. And from there forward, I was going to medical school. I was, school for me was not challenging. The high school. Elementary to high school, those weren't very challenging to me. I did really well without working very hard. Then got into college, and that was a little more challenging. You have to study.
Yeah.
Took some steps back from not wanting to go to medical school because I thought I couldn't have a family and do all these things. So went to pharmacy school for a couple of years, realized that's not my life, and then ultimately went into medical school. And it was when I started, I wanted to be a family practice doctor, a pediatrician, geriatric, something along those lines. And the scary thing is in medical school, you have your rotations, you do 2 years of book work, and then you start doing your rotations. I hated all of those. I hated them. And so imagine my fear that I've picked the whole wrong thing. I'm in the middle of this thing and I don't like it. Luckily, I did a surgery rotation, which I really liked. Then I did an OBGYN rotation, which I really liked. And realized though that I didn't want any of those lifestyles long term. Did a urology rotation and then found my people. All of those docs were very happy. They loved what they did. I loved what they did. And so it was from there forward, I was going to be a urologist, even though at the time there weren't very many women urologists. When I matched into my residency or when I got finished with urology, which was a 6-year residency, I was one of the first 100 female urologists in the country. So wow. I didn't start at 10. So yeah. So, that whole thing, just when I look back at it, it's like, oh, I didn't realize I was that much of a trailblazer. I didn't realize I was that brave. I didn't realize I had that much courage. And I've also realized that when people told me I couldn't do something, there's no way you're ever going to do that. My goal from that second forward is to prove them wrong.
Right.
So that's how I got to urology.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And here you are. And then it's led to writing a book, now having a podcast. Yeah. And in this path too, Felecia, is this Money with Mission. Tell us a little bit about what is Money with Mission?
So Money with Mission was born. So I finished residency, got into my practice, my first practice, and several years into that, I realized that medicine probably wasn't my end game. There's something else for me to do. And it was a very interesting time because, again, just like I hated pediatrics and geriatrics and all those, it's like, what do you mean? I have debt. I have a family. I have a plan. And I just knew that that's not what was going to be. Several years later, I met some women physicians. We ended up buying, my first real estate deal was buying the building we were going to practice in. Mm-hmm. Met the woman who helped walk us through that deal, who was a businesswoman, introduced me to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read that book, and then just like explosion of my mind, realizing assets, liabilities, money, how money works, all those kinds of things, and just led me on a path to understanding that more and more. Another woman who was a patient worked with me to buy we bought single family homes when we first started out. So I've had women along the way helping me, encouraging me, pushing me, challenging me to do more. We ended up buying 18 properties in 2 years, which happened to be the 2005 to 2007 time.
Oh, wow.
Which then came 2008. And all of that kind of fell apart. We thought we knew what we were doing. We learned we were consciously incompetent, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, learned a ton. It was a very, very, very painful time. The best thing about failure is that you can learn so much. And once I came out of that, I realized that I hadn't been with the right people, and getting into the right rooms with the right people who could help, who were smarter than me in real estate. I knew everything about urology. I knew only what I knew about real estate and needed to know a lot more. So getting into those rooms, starting to do syndications, which is bringing together groups of people to buy bigger properties, starting to do those. And I liked it. I like buying apartment buildings. I like resort property. I like all those things. It just wasn't filling. So I did a course on residential assisted living, and they talk about doing well and doing good, which just really rung true to me. So then raised money for our first residential assisted living home, which we have one. And through that, and then actually speaking that into the world, if I want to do things that make a difference in people's lives, I met people who were doing indoor controlled farms, buying land for farms, putting grocery stores in food deserts, low income housing, affordable housing, all these different projects started coming my way. And so that's how I got to Money with Mission. And then I realized that as a physician, and many of us, particularly women that I work with, are, well, the burnout in medicine. I don't know if surely everybody's heard about it by this time. Yeah. Maybe not, but it is high. How physicians are just tired. The suicide rate is not good. And part of my solution to the burnout is having multiple streams of income. And so that's a way that I can help, particularly women physicians, because that's who I'm driven to serve, is to help them achieve that through real estate and business investments that gives them cash flow, allows them to work the way they want to work in whatever position they want. If they love medicine, which I hope we do, you can stay there knowing you don't have to do it the way is traditional. You don't have to work 50, 80, 90 hours a week. You can work what you want, have time with your family, take care of yourself, do all the things that really make it an enjoyable thing. Does that help? That answer the question of how Money with Mission came along?
Yeah, absolutely. So much in there. And I want to start basically with the 18 single families in 05 to 07. Where do you think the challenge was as that curve went? My first house that I ever bought was in 07. Mm-hmm. And that was only one. But I rode that train as well, and so did so many other investors. So what was your biggest takeaway from those 18 units purchased pre-07, basically on the upswing, right?
Yeah. So that we bought properties that needed a lot of rehab, and we were undercapitalized was the bottom line. So we had put the money in, then money dried up, so we couldn't get the money to rehab them. We didn't have the folks to rehab them, so it just became one vicious cycle. We were able to borrow some money to get some done, about $50,000 in the midst of the whole thing, and that just went away. So I'm working a full-time position. My husband was working to keep all that stuff going. We were living remotely. It just didn't work, bottom line. So my biggest takeaway was undercapitalization and not knowing what I didn't know.
Yeah. So undercapitalization, yeah. What would be the solution, I guess, going forward? Like if you look back, it's hard. It's not impossible, but it's very hard to anticipate something like that happening. But if you had to look back and you approach those same 18 houses, what would be a few things that you would do differently in the process, in the acquisition, in the asset management?
So that number one, I wouldn't have bought as many. We bought so many that needed work. I would buy a house, get it ready, get somebody in there, buy the next one, get somebody in there, unless I had a huge crew that could be down the line just taking care of all that. And we didn't have that.
And you say get somebody in there, meaning contractors or tenant?
Tenant. Get the house up running, let that one be making money and before you got the next one, or you're so close to that you can now do the next one and not have such a risk of that one just sitting there. When you had 12 properties that all needed rehab, and then you don't have it, there's no income coming in, you kind of got a problem.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's where the undercapitalization comes in for sure.
Correct.
In that scenario, were you all cash? Were you financing it all? Tell me a little bit about that.
Trying to remember. I think if I remember correctly, we were cash because I remember borrowing from a retirement account that we were then going to pay back once we were able to refinance the properties. So we bought them really cheap. We were going to get them all fixed up and refinance them. This was a long time ago. You're testing my memory now. And I don't think that part ever happened.
Yep.
I'm not 100% remembering this.
It sounds like that's very true because of the undercapitalization issue. Very interesting. So out of those 18, do you still hold any of the 18?
Nope, not a single one.
Interesting.
Not a single one. After it was a matter of, am I going to keep digging this hole? And maybe I could have kept digging and come out of it on the other side. But it was a matter of, I'm going to either keep digging this hole, not really understanding what's happening, or am I going to stop digging this hole and start over again? And I chose option number 2, which was not, I don't walk away from things. I don't give up on things. That is not my nature to do. It was very, very difficult to do. Yeah. And it had its consequences. It wasn't just like you walk away and life just goes on in a rosy, merry way. There's a lot of consequences to doing that.
Yes. And
you take care of them. Learn what's what, learn how, learn who you need to help you take care of that kind of stuff, and keep going. It really is. I mean, it's like one of the biggest failures in my life. And I still think real estate is a good deal. I think it's where we need to put our money to build wealth.
Absolutely. You mentioned it's not where you can just walk away and everything's fine. And what fascinates me is, I guess, in my experience through the years of being that person who is the accountable one, the responsible one, and so many relationships, Felecia, that I've had through the years where somebody goes like, "Oh, it's fine. I'm out." And it's like, why? You can't just be out, right? It doesn't work like that. And people think that you can just stop and, okay, we'll split or whatever. And when somebody walks away from something, it doesn't work like that. There's so much stuff.
Somebody has to step up. And that has happened to me in other deals where I had partners who had less cash on the line say, this isn't working, I'm walking away. And like, okay, I guess I'll pick up the thing here and let's keep this thing going. We got investor money in this. It's not something I can just walk away from.
Yeah.
I just losing investor money breaks it's not a heartbreaker. It's a heart shatterer. It's a soul bending thing. Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet, but thinking about it happening is just not pleasant.
Yeah.
So,
and as the active partner in these relationships, it's always a possibility. There's never a full guarantee, 100%. But when you're working that genuine relationship that you have with somebody who has integrity, no matter what happens, I've got colleagues that, a particular deal I'm thinking of lost 6 figures. And throughout the next year or two, that colleague paid back that lender out of their own money, even though that property had gone. The very first property that I lent on, so I was the lender on it with another investor, and they came through the same. I was part of a group. I'm still part of a group called Fortune Builders, and they were in the group. So hey, they must be a hard worker like me, right? Because they're in the group, right? Yeah. Well, in that process, as soon as I started putting in these the processes and the procedures, they were missing. I wasn't getting proof of license, wasn't getting insurance. I wasn't getting these things. So at that point, I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. So what do you think they did? Gone, right?
Yeah. Ghosted.
Yeah. So in their eyes, it's fine. They gave us the project. No, it doesn't work like that. But you keep your head down, you keep focused, and things will work out because you stay dedicated, you stay focused and pivoting too. Cause you mentioned, you gotta, there are points where you just have to cut the loss at a certain point as a business person.
Yep. Yep. Fortunately, that was all our money. I haven't ever cut yet on investor money. So, and you keep working and finding those people who have the integrity to keep working for you, or if they know the thing is going to fall apart, can come and stand you, look you in the eye and let you know this is not working. And here's how we're going to make it right in the long term.
Yep.
That's the most important thing, because you've had it happen. I've had it happen. And what I don't want to happen is it to happen to anybody else. If I can help it, if I can help it, it won't happen to you.
I think in one of the challenges I have in those particular situations where something goes wrong, I always want to come with solutions. I never want to be the person that just comes with problems. But the challenge that I have, sometimes I've found myself waiting too long, trying to come up with a solution where come to the table, say, okay, we've got a problem. I don't quite have the solution yet. I'm working on it. This is what we're thinking. So not waiting too long to present the problem, even the solution yet, as long as you're focused on that solution.
Yes. And sometimes bringing it to the table gets your investors in like, oh, how about trying this? What about this? And can get you those ideas that you were so mired in the weeds of the thing, they can help you see.
Yes. The old Jahara's window, I think, is something to see. Somebody else's perspective.
Yes.
So in 2005, 2007, you guys are banking these houses. Where did Rich Dad, Poor Dad fall in? Was that before 2005 or after?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad got me into that mess because we read the book, we played Cash Flow 101. And I don't know if the game Cash Flow 101, the old one, I don't know if the new version has it, has a warning sign, has a warning on it that I can't even remember exactly what it was, but basically don't think you know what you're doing just because you play
the game. Yeah.
Yes. I didn't heed the warning.
Yeah. So I actually see that on your website. I see the Cash Flow Classic game on your website. That's Kiyosaki's.
That's his game. Yes. And we host cash flow games. So for investors, for women who are scared to invest, this is a way to actually get in there and start playing with money that's not your money.
Right.
You can see what happens. Like you lose all your money. You get to know how you are emotionally with investing, as opposed to sitting back and thinking, like, there's no way I could stand to lose money. Like, you see, let's play the game. You can't lose it. Yes. Can't lose your own money. See what happens.
Mitigated risk. And that's the educating piece. The mitigating risk is the educating piece. And then when I always, talk about, real estate too, and I saw it somewhere in your content as well too. It's asset backed, right? So it's asset backed.
100%. The stuff we have. I was just watching a 2010 60 Minutes that had Michael Lewis, who wrote The Big Short, about the 2008 crisis and how Wall Street. He said they didn't even understand what they were selling and what they were buying and what they were doing. They did not understand it. And we trust Wall Street and the SEC and the ratings agencies and all these people to help us know what to invest in. And if you watch that, you'll realize that you are trusting people who do not necessarily understand what the heck is going on. And you don't get to talk to them. That's the other thing. When you're investing in something real, if you're investing with me, if you're investing with Brett, you talk to us. You understand who we are. You have my phone number in your phone and can call me if you don't understand what's happening. That you don't get that on Wall Street.
Yeah. And it's crazy. And I think one of the big differences there, Felecia, too, is macro versus micro. And that the Wall Street is macro. And there's so many different layers, and not even the bureaucratic piece of it, but there's just so much to it. I can't even fathom, and then all the years that this stuff is compounded and built up with elbow rubbing and what is it when you pay somebody to go persuade politicians? The
lobbyists.
Yes. So there's so much that goes into it,
the lobbies, and then the government backing some companies, but not backing other companies. That the 2008 is a very interesting study. And I just keep watching I've watched The Big Short, the movie, so many times. This is my first time watching this interview. And it's just so interesting to me how, just what you said, how many layers there are, because I don't think it's different right now to the whole thing. We could put all the regulations we want. People figure out how to work around that.
Yeah.
The other thing they talked about is the Wall Street entitlement, and how people that are there they feel entitled to their bonuses. Michael Lewis was a Wall Street guy, and he said, I got a $200,000 bonus 2 years in a row, and I didn't understand why.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Do you ever follow Leo?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I lost you there.
Yeah.
Ray Dalio. Yeah.
I know who Ray Dalio is.
Yeah.
I don't listen, or I haven't heard.
It's just interesting. We were talking about, 2008 and kind of where we're at now and these trends. Dalio is a very brilliant man, comes to Wall Street itself, but just watching him watch basically the trends, and that's global trends of how we're moving. So I can't follow him all the time when it gets into that high level stuff, but it's interesting because it turns on, I always mention this, I hope it's for the right thing, the reticular activating system in your brain. So it's like, I'm watching out. I hear this little thing. I hear this little piece. So interesting. But even before that, Felecia, he's got the book Principles for Success.
Okay.
And it's good. And he's got basically a kid's version of it as well, too. So similar to cash flow, there's cash flow for kids. Okay. And, our kids love playing that game. And, around our house, we know asset, puts money in your pocket, liability takes money out of you. It's right. But the Dalio Principles for Success is interesting too, because it's about becoming a successful person. Like, what does it take? And it's very interesting. I love the kids version of it because it's simplified.
So the book has a kids version. Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. I believe Principles for Success. Let's see, 2005, and he's even done some videos of it as well too. Principles for Success, the Called Adventure. Yeah, it may just be the kids version. It's an illustrated book. It's called Principles for Success by Ray Dalio. It's a super easy read. It's pictures, but wow, they are like, the facts are hard hitting, and it's exactly what our life is built around. Being like the forefront or hard workers or go-getters, the ones who don't have entitlement.
Yes.
We
get what we work for. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. We get what we work for, but then we find out ways to create passive income. And now we can roll back around to this and the Money with Mission, the idea of assisted living. I want to talk about that just a little bit but it's kind of like a start. And for me, I think multifamily is okay. I can see that business. I buy 40 units, 100 units or whatever. I know I've got a property management company that I need to place inside of there. Is that the same thing for assisted living?
Yes, it can be. So we started out actually wanting to run the business as well as own the property. We are now at the place where we own the property and have a tenant in the building who is running an assisted living home, which is, they have, when we were running it, our bed rate was like $6,800 a month, and we were doing okay. It's a really hard business, and it was another job, and I didn't really want that.
Not for passive income, you don't know.
We ultimately found someone who really, really wanted it, and we had a beautiful house, and so they are now running that business and paying the mortgage down for us. So it's just like any other real estate thing. In that you have somebody, a renter, a tenant who is now a commercial tenant paying down your mortgage.
So I have my history, my architectural engineering, construction management engineering, which led me into real estate. And my first bigger company is Connect Home Buyers. Bigger as in it's done well and it's been here for a long time. Okay. We're nationwide real estate acquisitions. And so many times I've come across these assisted living homes where I don't have anything. I don't know what to do with them. What would be the first place that somebody would start if I say, because I can think right off the top of my head, like 3 or 4 of these properties that had like 10 beds, 7 beds, what would be the first place to kind of explore that opportunity?
So if you're thinking of buying it and holding it and using it and wanting to use it as an assisted living home, I would go to there's different organizations, residential assisted living, I can't remember, the Academy, I think, to find somebody who could run it. That I don't know that I would run that business. The other thing to me is that they could be used for transition housing, so sober living. You could use it for I have some friends who are doing special needs housing. It's already set up for that, and you might have to change a couple of things, but it's the same principle. The other thing I think about is, I had a friend who was in London who did the same kind of idea for new professionals. They couldn't necessarily afford a house on their own, or they didn't want the apartment. They're used to the community, and you rented out those rooms with bathrooms to new professionals, and now they have a community built in. They're used to living in a dorm. So there's all these newer and actually more the community type idea. It's, you think, the thing that's going through my mind, honestly, is commune, but it's not that. You just have a really nice place for whatever age group or whatever you're looking to do. And it's real estate. And if you're putting multiple people in there, like I have a friend who does the sober living in Cincinnati, and that's actually does very well. All these little things, you just have to figure out what you want to do yourself, like residential assisted living, and you run the business. There's business running in that. For if you're going to have like a house for professionals, there's nothing else there. You just rent the rooms and they pay the rent. There, you take care of the yard, you take care of, all the stuff you would take care of. So it just kind of depends on how you want to run that multi-unit house as opposed to a multi-unit apartment. And there are people who want that type of living.
Yeah, absolutely. That I always tell everybody is you got to figure out what you want and then reverse engineer back. And it's more than just the money. We call that the PIG, the passive income goal. Yeah. So if I know I want to replace my income, say I wanted to do $200K a year or $250K a year, and then I can work my way back, but it has to align with your values and the time that you are going to place into this.
100%. That 100%. Yeah, you might want 200K, and you can get there and passively, 100% passively, but it's going to take longer than if you want to build that business yourself, which is going to take some time, and it's going to be another job for you. So It's a matter of, we always start with, what's your philosophy? What are you trying to do? What is your overall goal? How do you want to live? All that is so important before you put your first dollar into a investment like this.
And speaking of that, figuring out that philosophy, how you want to live, where you want to live, all of that. That's something that you touch on a little bit, right? With the wealth building troubleshooting and strategy call, right?
Right. One of our big groups is Wealth Builders. It's a group for women professionals who know they want to invest off Wall Street, but don't know what to do next. Like, I know that getting off Wall Street is going to be in my best interest. So in this, our first call before you even join the group is that discovery, troubleshooting, what's going on. Does this make sense for you to join this group? And if I can get you into or help you understand the different things that there are for you to do, and you don't need to join our community, or you don't want to be in a community of other women doing what you are doing so that you can have this masterminding kind of effect, be connected with these kind of deals, you can go off and do it on your own, 100%. If that's what you're looking for, you come into our group. We have quarterly webinars, quarterly investor webinars, people that I know who are doing deals, who have integrity. They are going to stay in touch with you. Tax people, attorneys, all the people that are going to help keep your money, more money for you. We connect you with all those kinds of things in our group.
That's awesome. And we can find, and this is women in particular, correct?
Correct. Women professionals, yes. Women
professionals. And it doesn't have to be physicians or anything. It's just women professionals.
If you know that money on Wall Street is not necessarily the end of the game for you, your 401k is for your retirement. cash flow now helps you live now the way you want to live. The 401ks, and I'm sure Brett and I have this similar feelings about our 401ks and the retirement plans and the stories we've been told about why we should be doing that and dumping all your money into that, hoping it's going to be there so that when you're in a lower income tax bracket, you can pay less tax, which who wants to be in a lower income tax bracket when they don't have to go to work anymore?
Right.
Nobody. Nobody.
Yeah.
So it is about having income now so that you can live the life you want to live now and into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And finding that avenue for the women professional who knows that they want to get outside of Wall Street, looking for that cash flow, to even just check and see if this is a good fit. Moneywithmission.com. Is that the best place for them to find you?
Moneywithmission.com. You can go on there, just start looking around. If you want to have a conversation with me about it, there's a big old blue button that says book a call, and we can get on a call and have a conversation about it.
And as always, the podcast, you also podcast as well, too?
I love podcasting so much. I love being on podcasts. The whole conversation thing. Yes, Money with Mission podcast comes out once a week, and I have guests on there who are sponsors of deals. So they have projects that they're working on. So if you don't need any help and you want to go do it yourself, go do it. Mm-hmm. You vet your own project doing that. Okay. So that there's all kinds of ways to find this kind of stuff. If you're ready to do it, go do it on your own. More power to you.
Yep. And vetting a project on your own is vetting the general partner in order to become a limited partner in a syndication. Is that what you mean?
100%. And you're vetting the partner, you're vetting the deal, you're vetting all of that. If you're going out there, so those are the things that we help with in Wealth Builders. Mm-hmm. Again, it's not a secret. It's not a secret. You can do it. It's just when you're doing your full-time job, it becomes a little more challenging. Yeah. And we know there are a lot of people out there who look at doctors as easy money because we make a lot of money and we don't know what to do with it sometimes besides put in our 401k. So they come in and start selling, and a lot of doctors get taken. And my thing is that I don't ever want that to happen again.
Yep. I speak with a lot of physicians around the financial world too. And it's interesting, Felecia, because I'm not a physician. I'm from the outside coming in and like learning all of this stuff. But even asset managers like Edward Jones and Oppenheimer and kind of like that path, somehow this particular person, it's their perspective, I'm not saying that that's the way it was, we're targeting residents. Residents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So to kind of get them on that set and forget kind of path and get assets under management.
I'm going to compare it to, this is okay, this will be a little controversial. We'll compare it to the cigarette companies and the vape companies who are selling candy flavored stuff. So to get the kids hooked. Let's go to the young people. You'll have them for that much longer. You'll get their money under management for that much longer. And it is not always in your best interest to do that. Just know when you're getting sold something, make sure what's happening. That's all I can say. Make sure you get a better understanding. Talk to more than one person about that thing.
And I guess kind of top all this off with, I'm going to throw back that micro versus macro approach too. And if you're looking at micro opportunities versus macro opportunities, there's a difference in the communication, the transparency, in even the benefits, the relationships.
There is. I don't think there should be.
Right. That'll be difficult. Yeah. That's a point there too. So.
I mean, if you want your money on the stock market, which is fine, make sure you have a person who can help you understand what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're making money from what they're managing for you. It's not, we are smart people. This stuff is not that hard. Wall Street makes it challenging by the words they use. Just like physicians can make things really challenging by using hard words or words that only we know, the lingo, right?
Yes.
But we don't want to do that. We want you to understand. And Wall Street doesn't necessarily want you to understand. They use their lingo on a regular basis. Stop them, make them understand, make them explain it to you so that you can understand, because you can.
Nobody is going to care more about your money than you do. And Tom Burns, in his book, I think Why Doctors Don't Get Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, his section's in there about financial advisors, and it's a great read. So if anybody hasn't read that yet, Tom Burns, Why Doctors Don't Get Rich, it is a great read. Coming from not a physician, how do you like that? It is a great read. Tom Burns is
a good guy. He's a really good guy.
Yep, and the first copy buyer of Rich Dad Poor Dad from
the very first one. I know. It's like,
that's so.
I was on a cruise with them, and when I learned that story, so I was with the real estate guys, and Robert Kiyosaki was there, Tom Burns was there. They were up on stage telling that story, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like." To have the first copy, that's something else.
And it's right there. But even in that point, Felecia, every instance, and I see this gives me goosebumps thinking about it. How many lives, good mainly, not the 05 to 07 crunch that really pushed you on an educational challenge, but how many lives has that positively affected? And he couldn't even give it away.
I know.
He couldn't give it away.
Because Wall Street didn't want it to go. There was so many things talking about when he said your house is not an asset. Even now, it makes people sick to their stomach to think, what do you mean my house is not an asset?
Yeah.
Asset definition, which we talk about to our kids, is an asset puts money in your pocket. Your house on a daily basis is not putting money in your pocket. The only time it's going to do that is when it's not your house anymore.
Yeah.
So just there's so much in that book, and it's a very easy read, and it just will open your mind to so many things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it took me so long to get to that book, but I'm glad that it did, because I feel like I built experience and foundation before getting to that book. But yeah, that's the number one book I would say I would recommend to everybody.
Yeah.
Starting in the middle of their investing,
wherever you are.
Yeah.
And don't let Robert Kiyosaki and his controversy, if anybody who goes and read the book, just forget the rest of that stuff. The book is worth the read.
Yeah. The value you get out is what you put into it. And it's like so many other things. You can't even all of that information in there. And even for me, I'm finding that unsolicited help is like, has no value, because I could seriously, Felecia, I've gone through so much in my real estate career, and I'm at the point now that stop selling, start helping. It's like I see somebody and I'm always biting my tongue, trying not to help them, and the people that you do, it's like, whatever. It's like, are you serious?
Yes. I have to ask, do you mind if I give you a suggestion?
Yeah.
It's just like, can I impose here just a little bit? Yeah.
It's so many times when people and I'm sure that I've taken things for granted along the way too. So, I'm pointing the finger at myself at this too, but if you only knew who was standing next to you, and if you only knew the value that person could bring in your life, if you just took that opportunity.
A little bit. And yes, 100%. Yes.
Crazy.
I'm guilty too. I'm guilty too. And then you find out later and you're like, oh, shoot.
Yep. So all of those moments in your life, I had one today where I'm having a conversation with somebody in my head. I wasn't talking to them. I'm having a conversation with my head, and I could say this or say that. And if I would have never stirred up the mustard or whatever it's called to talk with them, then I would have never gained the opportunity that conversation led into. So if there's anybody out there listening who has those conversations in your head, do it. Pick up the book at the car wash, buy it, believe somebody, build a relationship, because that's how you make a difference in your life and in change. Money with Mission, you make a change in somebody else's life. You get to pay it forward faster.
I want women to make a difference in their own life, and then we make the difference in other people's lives. And my mission is every woman has a financial ability to walk away from any job or relationship that's not in her best interest. And I want every woman to have that. So it's across the board for me. It's huge for me.
That's awesome. Very, very passionate, very, very meaningful. And in that direction, I'm sure you've built this culture around you, Felecia, and I just really appreciate your time and the conversation that we've had today.
Thank you so much. You guys can, if you're interested in anything more, go to moneywithmission.com, book a call. I've got a lot of resources on there, 7 steps to building resilient wealth. You can get my ebook, or if you want a hard copy of my book, How to Create Wealth That Outlives You. So much stuff for you guys. Just take a step. Just take the step. That's all I ask.
Just start that conversation. That's all you got to do. Don't do it in your head. Do it in real life.
And don't think about it. I was just the podcast. I was on a conversation before, and the guy was talking about, you get a big name. Don't think about it. Just pick up the phone and call and have the conversation. Don't have it in your head because you start getting nervous and you triple up your words. People are people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Through and through, good or bad. And money amplifies that, but that could be a whole nother topic in itself. Well, thank you for your time. And everybody out there, again, listening with us today on this episode, it's been an absolute pleasure. Moneywithmission.com. You can reach out to Felecia Froe. Talk about this, especially women in the professional platform, where know that you have that urge or that desire to get away from Wall Street and free yourself. Because once you free yourself, you give yourself the freedom to pay it forward to other people. So thank you again for listening. Shoot us an email if you have any ideas for episodes, or if you would like to be on the show, info@physicianwealthsystems.com. And until next time,